For most people, travel begins with compromise. You adjust your plans to fit a timetable. You accept delays as part of movement. You measure distance in hours lost rather than opportunities gained. But somewhere above this familiar rhythm exists another version of mobility, one built on absence rather than convenience. In that world, waiting is quietly removed. Private aviation has long been associated with spectacle. Yet for the modern elite, it is less about visibility and more about architecture. A way of structuring life so that geography no longer interrupts momentum. Movement becomes seamless, almost unremarkable. The jet is not the luxury, the continuity is. And increasingly, that continuity is summoned through discrete digital systems that function like a private layer of global infrastructure. Not designed to impress the public, but to ensure that those who rely on them never feel the friction of distance at all. Comfort can only solve so much. Commercial aviation perfected the language of luxury. Spacious seats, curated menus, exclusive lounges. Yet beneath that refinement remains a fixed structure. You depart when told. You arrive where routes allow. Control never fully belongs to the traveler. For individuals whose schedules shape companies, markets, or entire industries, this structure becomes restrictive. The issue is not inconvenience, it is limitation. A delayed flight may ripple through negotiations, investments, or strategic decisions that operate on global timelines. First class offers elevation. It does not offer autonomy. As influence expands, so does the need to move without interruption. Airports become checkpoints rather than gateways. The traditional system, efficient for millions, begins to feel rigid for those whose responsibilities span continents. Eventually, luxury evolves beyond refinement. It becomes the freedom to move without permission. Private aviation did not begin as a lifestyle. It emerged as a practical solution, a way for industries to connect distant operations without relying on commercial routes. Over decades, what started as logistical necessity transformed into something far more subtle, an independent travel network. This network functions quietly alongside public aviation. It has its own terminals, its own scheduling logic, and its own digital tools. Clients rarely encounter the noise or density associated with mainstream travel. Instead, they interact with systems designed for precision, discretion, and adaptability. Today, private aviation resembles an ecosystem rather than a fleet, an architecture built on coordination rather than display. The result is a parallel mode of movement, largely unseen, yet essential to those navigating the highest levels of global decision-making. Among the earliest architects of this ecosystem was NetJets. Their innovation was not simply in providing aircraft, but in redefining how ownership could function. Through fractional shares, clients secured access to a fleet without bearing the full burden of acquisition. The concept introduced stability into private travel. Instead of chartering flights unpredictably, members gained a structured allocation of time in the air. Schedules could be planned with confidence. Aircraft availability became an expectation rather than a negotiation. This predictability reshaped mobility for frequent travelers, particularly within established business corridors. Digital tools later refined the experience, allowing flights to be arranged with minimal friction. Ownership, in this context, became psychological as much as financial. It represented continuity, a sense that movement was secured long before it was needed. Where NetJets emphasized structure, VistaJet introduced fluidity. Their model removed ownership entirely, replacing it with access measured in hours rather than assets. Clients did not align themselves with a specific aircraft or region. They aligned with a philosophy of unrestricted movement. This approach suited individuals whose lives unfolded across continents. Entrepreneurs, investors, and cultural figures whose commitments rarely remained localized. VistaJet's fleet, unified by consistent design and service standards, created a sense of familiarity regardless of departure point. A jet boarded in Singapore would mirror one waiting in London. The continuity was intentional. Technology supported this promise, enabling reservations to function with the simplicity of a digital request rather than a logistical negotiation. The result was not merely convenience, it was psychological removal of burden. Travel ceased to be an operational concern and became an extension of daily life. Flexible, discreet, and aligned with the rhythm of global movement.
At the center of both systems lies an understated innovation: the interface. What once required layers of coordination can now unfold through a single digital interaction. With a few deliberate inputs, routes materialize, crews mobilize, and aircraft prepare without public visibility. The transformation is subtle yet profound. Geography begins to lose its rigidity when movement becomes this responsive. Destinations feel closer, not because distances shrink, but because the process of reaching them becomes seamless. These applications do not advertise themselves as revolutionary. They function quietly, mirroring the expectations of those who use them. Precision replaces spectacle. Efficiency replaces narrative. The technology exists to disappear into routine. Over time, the app becomes less a tool and more a gateway, a discrete mechanism through which global space can be navigated on one's own terms. Inside the aircraft, another transformation occurs. The cabin evolves from a space of transit into a domain of continuity. Meetings unfold mid-flight. Strategies are refined between continents. Communication flows without interruption. Luxury here is not defined by ornamentation alone. It is measured by the preservation of cognitive momentum. The environment is calibrated for focus, and each element is designed to sustain productivity rather than distract from it. This reframing alters the purpose of travel itself. Journeys cease to be pauses between engagements. They become extensions of them. Decisions are made at altitude, agreements reached across oceans. Rest, when chosen, becomes deliberate rather than imposed. In this context, the aircraft operates less like a vehicle and more like an office suspended above geography, a place where movement and intention coexist seamlessly. Though their services converge in practice, NetJets and VistaJet embody distinct psychological orientations. One emphasizes ownership as a form of assurance. The other privileges access as a form of freedom. Both approaches respond to different interpretations of influence. For some, stability provides confidence. Knowing that resources are secured in advance allows attention to remain on broader objectives. For others, adaptability defines success. The ability to shift direction instantly becomes its own advantage. These philosophies mirror broader attitudes toward wealth and control. Is power rooted in possession or in the ability to move without attachment? Each system answers differently, yet both converge on a shared outcome: the reduction of friction in global life. At first glance, private aviation appears to trade in luxury, but its most valuable currency is temporal. By minimizing delays, rerouting inefficiencies, and compressing distances, these systems return something irreplaceable: hours. Time regained alters decision-making. It expands the scope of what feels achievable within a day, a week, or a year. Opportunities once dismissed as impractical become viable. The rhythm of work and life accelerates without feeling rushed. This recalibration is subtle. Clients rarely articulate it publicly, yet its effects shape entire industries. Mobility becomes a strategic advantage rather than a logistical concern. In this sense, the aircraft is merely the vessel. The true transaction occurs in the realm of scheduling, autonomy, and foresight. Quiet luxury, at its highest expression, does not seek admiration. It seeks efficiency. And few efficiencies are more transformative than reclaiming the finite resource that structures every human endeavor. As visibility becomes easier in the digital age, discretion gains new significance. For many at the highest levels of influence, status is no longer performed through excess. It is communicated through subtle signals. Patterns of movement, access to private infrastructures, and the absence of disruption. Private aviation apps contribute to this evolving identity. They enable lives that unfold beyond conventional observation. Travel becomes fluid, almost invisible. Destinations change without announcement. The spectacle once associated with jets gives way to a quieter narrative of continuity. Mobility becomes not just a necessity, but a defining characteristic of belonging to an interconnected global sphere. In this emerging paradigm, refinement is measured not by what is shown, but by what is effortlessly sustained. Private jet platforms reveal a parallel architecture of modern life, one built on discretion, coordination, and the quiet mastery of time. NetJets offers predictability rooted in ownership. VistaJet offers fluidity rooted in access. Both converge on a shared promise: movement without interruption. For those who rely on them, the aircraft is secondary. What matters is the continuity it preserves. In an era defined by immediacy, the greatest luxury may not be speed or spectacle, but the ability to move without resistance. These systems do not merely transport individuals, they reshape how influence operates across geography. And in doing so, they illustrate a defining principle of quiet luxury. True power rarely needs to announce its presence. If you're drawn to stories that explore quiet luxury, hidden power, and the invisible systems shaping elite lifestyles, subscribe to stay with us.